Hey guys, welcome back to my podcast, A Moment with A. As you guys know, my name is Akeele. Hey guys, hey guys, my name is Akeele. Welcome back to my podcast, A Moment with A. As you guys know, my name is Akeele. Hey guys, hey guys, my name is Akeele. Hey guys, hey guys. Bye.
So hey guys, welcome back to another episode of A Moment with A. Hello YouTube family. I'm trying to get accustomed to having cameras on me as well as recording, so please forgive me while I get used to this. But I'm so excited to be back for another episode. We've had great energy all day, so we're just gonna keep it up and keep it moving. So you already know we have Sassy here. Hi. Hey Sassy girl.
Hey girl.
And we have Mark over here. So I am really loving all the love that we're getting on our podcast episode. So a lot of people have gave me a lot of good feedback about our last episode, which was, well, you know, we're in our series, Sis, This Ain't It. And our last episode was titled, Okay, But Do You Love You? Okay. But it was a really good episode. Like, I loved it. And we really just talked a lot about self-love and what it means to love yourself and really just finding that love from within. So if you haven't listened to it yet, go ahead and check it out. Go check it out on YouTube though, because it is so cool to see the live version and I love it. It's so cool. So shout out to my producer Jorge, who's really been killing it behind the scenes, like #blessed. But so our episode for today is going to be called Guard Your Heart. So we're really going to be talking about, really, I don't know, in the sense of like being single and how to guard your heart, and talking a little bit about soul ties, which I'm really excited for because I've done some research about it and it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be biblical wise. So I'm really excited to examine that. But you know, first I want to check on my roundtable. How was your day? What did you guys do? Anything exciting?
Today was a chill day. You know, went to the gym. You know, you gotta get these. You know.
You work out?
Get right. Yes. I try to.
Little something.
Yeah, did a little bit of reading and just chill day.
Awesome.
Good day.
Good day.
Yes.
A self-care day.
Self-care.
Nice. That's dope. What about you, Sassy girl?
Went to work, went home, studied a little bit, and then prepared for a small group tomorrow. I did Bible study at school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys heard it here first that Sassy leads Bible study. So when she gets ordained as a pastor.
Well, okay.
Okay. Remember where you were.
So
you're saying that's actually can be.
Listen, the Lord wants.
I'm joking. But so you guys heard it here first, you know?
Yes.
So I think that's really cool that you do smart group though, for real. But my day was pretty good. I worked 6 to 12 and work was a little trying, but it's okay. But let me tell you guys what happened at the nail shop today. So at the nail shop. Okay, so listen. So in case you guys don't know about me, like some people say that I'm bougie or whatever, but I just think that I'm me. Like I can't help how I move. You know how I am. But anyways. So I haven't gotten like a pedicure and like a manicure in like forever because like once I got out of my last relationship, I had to like, rearrange my budget. I was back to this whole single girl thing. So, my money wasn't flowing the way that it used to flow. And that's good and all. Like I've always taken care of myself. Your girl pay her own bills, period.
Yeah.
So, but I've gotten everything back aligned, where it should be, money-wise. I'm really been working on that. So I was like, you know what? I'm about to go treat myself. Self-care day. Today was my self-care day too, So I went to this nail shop and I'm really picky about my nail shops, and that's just, I don't care. Like, that's just how I am. I don't like certain people doing my nails. I know this may be a foreign language to you. Is it? Are you keeping up?
Keeping up.
Awesome. So I went to this nail shop. I looked at the reviews first, and I was like, God, like, I don't know. But despite my judgment, I went anyway. Someone needs to turn off their phone. It was called Asian Nails. That's what it was called. But I went. And there was this lady here. She did my nails and stuff. And I wanted to get yellow on my nails or whatever. And then they ran out of yellow. I was like, how do you run out of a color? It's yellow. So I was like, I know, it was so rude. It was so rude. But I was like, whatever. Okay, I'll just get a brown. I'll just get a nude color. It's whatever. So I got, and first of all, on my pedicure, like, she didn't follow my nails at first. And I was like, why are you not following my nails? I had already decided I wasn't going back. You know how I am. And she's like, we'll do it after. We'll fight after. I was like, sis, I don't think this is the proper. I'm not a nail tech, but I don't think this is the proper procedure. So, anyways, she does my nails, but then she starts putting like designs on my nails, and I was like, baby girl, no, I don't do all that extra stuff. Like, I'm really simple. That's my mom. My mom, she's the extra one. And she did the stuff on my nails, and I was just like, you know what, whatever, it's not a big deal. I can just get my color changed in a week. But then I had to do my pedicure, and I am really particular about my pedicures. I only get white nails, like white polish on my toes. You'll never see me with a different color. That shit is what I do. That's like my thing. It goes really well with my melanin. Yeah. I have really pretty feet, so it all comes together and it looks well. So anyways, so I'm sitting in the chair. I'm getting really irritated because I was just irritated because I was. That's just that. Yeah. And I was texting my homegirl Taylor, so I got distracted, and she's putting on my nail polish. I look up, she's putting black designs on my white nail polish. I was like, baby girl, listen, I just want white toenails. Like, I don't want any design. She's talking about why? It looks good. Girl, do you mind? Like, no, I don't want this on my toes. So I just paid. She took it off or whatever, and then I was just like, I gotta go because this is just too much for me. So that was my story.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay, I won't be going back.
Yeah.
But I was just like, this is just too much. But that was my day, and now I'm here recording with you guys. But I just wanted to share that with you because it was just on my heart. And I was like, I need to tell you guys about my no experience.
Glad to know. Where did you go so I don't know?
Dang, I feel so bad.
You just want to put shout it out.
But it was this place on Goldenrod by my house, But anyways, but my toes are cute though, low key. They're cute. They're white. Thank you so much. Okay, so that was my story. Okay, story time. But moving back into a moment with A. Well, technically, that was a moment with A. Literally.
No.
But just a little spill the tea segment. Just a couple questions. Oh, it's not going to be...
I am good.
Your facial expression.
Your facial...
Just a couple questions.
You're making me
tone it
say
down
it
with
all.
the facial expressions.
You're hanging around me way too much. Okay, but seriously, I just like to know a little bit more about you guys, and I think our listeners really enjoy it too. It kind of, I don't know, makes them feel like they know us.
Gotcha. Yes.
So, do you have a favorite song right now? Like, if I were to go to your Spotify, what is your top played song right now?
Is this duet Pat Barrett, I think it's pronounced, his name is pronounced, is Sales. Really enjoying the song. It sounds great, and the lyrics are just on point, He talks about the relationship with God that he has, where there's no facade, there's not fake, there's just, real touches. That's my go-to right now. Sales, Pat Barrett, so, look it up.
Okay.
Yeah, right now I'm between two songs. Gracefully Broken
Ooh.
and Flaws. Like, I listen to them every morning. Like, it's like on repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Just like,
Gracefully broken.
Let's stick to
Don't do me. 'Cause I know how to hold a note, okay? You know, you guys don't know I have talent. Thank you very much, Saskia. Let me know. Anyways, actually I don't because I feel like I don't have talent. I don't know who listens to my podcast. Lady Martin's gonna be like, oh, so that means you want to sing. No. No. But my favorite song right now is called Unstoppable God. I think it's by Elevation Worship. But I like the Travis Green and the Travis Green version too. It's a really good song. So, and then there's another one. I can't think of the name right now, and it's so irritating me. But I put it on my Instagram story yesterday. It's a Travis Green song. But dig it. Whatever. It's a really good song. But those are the two that are like on repeat. And I love them. Are you binging any shows right now? What y'all watching on Netflix? Do you watch TV, Mark?
No, I don't.
I have to know who we're talking to.
No, I'm all YouTube or occasionally Netflix, and it doesn't even count as occasionally. Like I just don't.
It's okay. So you're not watching any shows?
It doesn't mean that I haven't watched any shows on Netflix. I binge watched Breaking Bad and Prison Break, all that, The Office. I watched it a lot. But right now though, I'm just trying to not invest so much time on a TV screen. Not judging anybody, but that's just me,
That's okay.
Yeah, just, So no.
What you watching, Saskia?
I'm watching a Korean drama. You know how much I love Korean drama. See? Okay. You can't don't do that.
Hey, I'm like Mark, no judging. You like what you like.
judge me for my Korean drama.
How?
Every time. What you watching? Korean drama.
Okay.
What you gonna say? I want to watch too. I don't want to watch.
She's like, oh, that's what you're watching.
That's okay. I'm actually rewatching The Office right now.
Oh,
It's just, I don't know, it just kills me. It's so funny.
3 times.
3 times? I think I'm in season 4. But yeah, that's what I'm currently rewatching. I don't know, it's just something about The
It
Office.
doesn't get old. Like I was thinking about that today actually. I'm like, you know what? If I watch it again,
What's your favorite episode?
Oh, I can't. Like there's so many.
Okay, what's one of your favorite funniest scenes?
I would have to think. It's probably something Jim pranking Dwight. It's always that. So yeah.
One of my top favorite scenes ever is when Dwight acts like there's a fire drill going on in the office.
Yeah.
And everyone's just freaking out. Mike was talking about, stay calm, stay effing calm. It is so funny. It is literally my favorite episode. Or the CPR episode. I love that.
I saw that scene. I actually watched the show, but I see like different scenes.
You have to watch the show. It is hilarious.
I just love how Jim always is on top of Dwight, but deep down he like really cares for him.
Yeah.
So it's like a really honest relationship.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
I enjoy it. Okay. What is one topic that you think is not talked about enough? Just period.
Mental health in the minority community specifically.
That's real.
That would cover it up. Mental health, hidden struggles that people go through. Like you have a lot of people that are going through certain things in their life, like privately, but in front of everybody else, it's like everything's Gucci.
I'm blessed and highly favored.
So if people would like talk about that, like people coming together and like not 12-step program, but at least like let's sit down and let's see if we can relate to each other and what we're going through. And I know you're sad, but you're not, letting it be known. Like, what is it that makes you sad and stuff like that. That's a lot.
Okay, so these are gonna be future podcast topics.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about them.
Hidden struggles.
I like that. Hidden figures.
Yeah.
Finesse that in there somehow. That's cool. But I think there's so many freaking topics that are not talked about as much as they should be. But if I had to pick one, I think emotional abuse and relationships is not talked about enough at all. Like, people kind of act like if it's not physical abuse or like mental abuse, and like it's not abuse, you know. And it's like, it's so underrated, I think, and just not talked about enough. Like, oh, he's not hitting you.
Right.
Oh, well, at least he's not cheating on you, girl. Okay, but if he like makes me feel less than who I am or what I'm like worth, then that's abuse too. If anything, it's worse because you can't see those scars, and you can see if someone hits me or puts their hands around my neck, but like you can't see my inner scars. You know.
It's crazy. Like, sometimes you see couples or married couples, and they look so happy. They look like everything's just and then it's just, you know, you come to find out like either the wife is just suffering, like he's crazy, or he's saying about his wife she's crazy. Like, I don't know what's going on. I remember not so long ago, we were in like this group, we were like, you know, worshiping and just, you know, getting together, and people were like giving out testimonies, and one of the married, the wife, you know, she was talking about how she was going through depression, and you see her happy, and you would think, wow, like they recently got married, so they're happy about that, and you just imagine, but no, it's like they're going through hell and back, and you don't even know it until they just break, you know, and they just tell it, they say it, you know. So
that was low-key me.
Yeah, I'm saying,
like legit, that was legit my life. Like, I was so freaking depressed. Like, I was thinking about this recently, yesterday, because I was texting Taylor, and she was asking how I was, and I was like, I'm like literally the happiest I've ever been in like at least 3 years. And I would think back about how depressed I had gotten, and like how no one really knew, because like I'm still me at work. Like, I'm still like, you're still you know, like you're still happy and on the surface, but like there are times where I would go on break and just like cry in my car because I was just so freaking depressed with like my marriage and just stuff like that. So it's definitely something that's like not talked about as much as it should be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like a topic
of what do you call it? Behind the scenes of marriage.
I see you trying to get, you know, good with the title names. I see you, Mark. I see you.
Behind the scenes.
It's like
Something like that, or just behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But how do you really feel? You know?
Behind the balls.
about.
Something like that. It was just, I think about so many different things, but definitely needs to be talked about more. And it's going to start right here on A Moment with A.
Yes.
Period, cool. Okay. But I think this is really all good topics and good information to kind of lead us into our topic today, which is about guarding your heart. And more specifically, I feel like, I know I'm in my season of singleness, well, kind of almost in my season of singleness. Mm-hmm. And I know Saskia is in her season of singleness, and well, Mark is in a relationship. He's conversing with someone, let's just say that. he's conversing. So we're all kind of in this season. And
we're figuring stuff out.
Yeah, we're really figuring stuff out. We're really kind of guarding your heart in the process of dating, and what does it mean to guard your heart and things like that. And I started thinking specifically about like soul ties. Yeah. Because to be completely transparent, when he and I, like my ex and I first like were like, okay, you know, I was like, this isn't working out. Mm-hmm. I'm about to skedaddle. No, it wasn't like that, but just literally me, I'ma just head out. But we kind of talked about, okay, so like if I find someone else, you know.
Okay.
I play so much, yeah. But we talked about that, like, you know, are we gonna be intimate with other people, stuff like that, and we were like, yeah, but I knew as a child of God, like, okay, I have a different standard for myself now. Yes. But I wasn't really following that standard. So I had a couple of soul ties that I had become attached to or whatever, but I'm not anymore. So that's that. But it really got me thinking about soul ties and how strong they are, you know, and how it does affect you and how you do have to guard your heart when dealing with things like that.
Right.
So as I was doing my notes or whatever, because I was like, okay, guard your heart. What does that even mean, God? Like, why are you always giving us these quizzes?
For
Listeners, like, well, how would you define soul ties? You know, for the people that wouldn't know how to, what that actually means. Okay.
So, well, I think everyone has their own different, and yeah, but during the research that I found, and I should have asked my spiritual father about it, because he loves like theology and he's really smart and he's into this type of stuff, but there's nothing in the Bible about a soul tie, like an actual soul tie, but from the spiritual world, I definitely believe they exist. And basically, for me, a soul tie is when you are intimate with the person, whether it is physically intimate, emotionally intimate, and your souls become connected in a sense. And you can sometimes take on some of the things that they're battling, some of the things that they're going through, because you've allowed this person to enter into you, whether it's physical or just emotional.
Yeah.
And I know for me, like personally, I believe soul ties exist, because even looking back in that toxic relationship that I was in, once I got out of it, I started to realize I picked up so many of his characteristics that was his demons. Like whether it was I was becoming more insecure about myself and stuff like that, which I've never really been, because I've always been sure about who I am.
Yeah.
But because that was what he was going through and we were connected, then that it formed like a soul tie. So that's what I think soul ties are.
It's good insight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I found this scripture and I really connected with it. It's Proverbs 4:23 through 27, and God kind of talks about guarding your heart. So it says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk far from your lips. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thoughts to the path for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways. Do not turn to the right or the left. Keep your foot from evil. So that's the scripture. So just talking and thinking about that, and I thought about that question that you asked me yesterday at work. BTW, Mark and I work together. That's how we know each other. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know he's always parking in my parking spot.
Oh my god.
But just side note. So yeah, Mark and I work together. So we always have little talks and stuff in between our shifts.
Yeah.
But Mark had asked me a question about gossip, about how gossip affects your life.
Oh yeah.
And then when I started doing my research for this, that's connected to guarding your heart.
Yes.
You know, like you can't be gossiping and earthly things when you're a child of God, because it corrupts you.
Yes.
And to answer your question, Pastor had gave the sermon on Sunday, and he had this graphic of like apples, and they were lined up, and there was one rotten apple at the end, and they were all connected. And basically how like if you're around toxic people, it starts to leap through you. It's never like the lightness, like, you know, good people make bad people good. It's always kind of like the bad person corrupts the good people. So that's just all kind of like my opening about guarding your heart, and that kind of made me want to answer your question. So what do you think about that phrase, guard your heart? Like, what does it mean to you?
Well,
a lot of people, when they speak about the heart, they immediately go to, okay, my heart. It's a lot of feelings and emotions involved. Scientifically speaking, it's it's pumping blood. That's all it's doing. Biblically, I believe then when God is talking about the heart, he's really talking about your mind. Because, guard your heart, guard your thoughts. Because most of our battles as Christians and any human being starts in the mind. You start stressing about things that maybe you don't have to stress about. You meet a person, and then you start getting all these emotions, and you get ahead of yourself. You don't control those thoughts. They're like, oh my God, I really like this person. He's so good. He's like this, but you're not really. You haven't even been with him for like a year or 6 months, and you're already saying, talking about love and talking about commitment and this and that. It's like, guard your heart, guard your thoughts. Take a step back. I know you're feeling some type of way, but you really have to be careful before you can enter in like dangerous territories where you can end up hurting yourself or somebody hurting you. It's my point is like people have to make it really clear that your heart really is like it's your mind.
Yeah.
It's what you think about. People talk about speaking things into existence. If you're always talking in a negative tone, like complaining, that's your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like charismatic and you're positive and you optimistic and you're just I'm claiming this blessing in my life, then it might as well happen, right?
Yeah.
So just take 2 steps back and then just guard. Just give me a second while I work on your life. That's what God is saying. And just don't lean into your own understanding. So take a second.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said, because I was just thinking if we actually listen to our hearts, then we'll get in a lot of trouble. Like just because our heart is just like I feel a certain way about someone, but like actually controlling our minds or talk about that feeling, then we can move forward and and just basically spending time with God and just like Jesus, just like control my mind, because our flesh is like the most interesting ever.
That's a good word.
It's like so dangerous, and like I think earlier we were talking about like listening to our hearts,
Mm-hmm.
about the conversation Akeele and I were having, and it's just like don't listen to your heart,
Mm-hmm.
just basically just control your thoughts, control your mind.
And all the research that I was doing on soul ties and guarding your heart, that was the most common part that all the articles had, was transforming your mind. Like that's how God changes you first. It's in your thoughts. And we always kind of talk about that in church, like the renewal of your mind. And it's like, it sounds like so simple, but it's really complex, and it's so important to change the way that you think about really everything.
Yes.
I think there was this while ago I posted something on social media basically just saying that like hurt people and positive people produce positivity. So it's like if you're constantly just negative about everything, it all goes back like this car thing, like it's such a testimony in a way as well. But there's it was like 10 days I didn't have a car because my car had stopped working or whatever, and in my head, like I could have been so just dramatic and terrible about the whole thing, but I just knew that God was going to take care of it for me. Like I just had this sense of comfort of like, okay, this is going to be handled this week. And sure enough, it was handled this week. Like Saskia commented earlier, like it's just amazing how you got a car in like 2 days. And I was like, I said God was going to take care of it for me, and he did. Like, so I had no reason to stress about it. But Saskia said something to me, because obviously we talk all the time, but she said something to me that really stuck out to me, and it gave me comfort. It's like, oh, this just means you really have a relationship with God now. And I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Like, but it's awesome to think about how he transforms us. And sometimes we don't even know that he's doing it, but then something like this will happen, and then it really puts your faith in motion. He's just so dope. Man.
The Bible says that everything works for the good to those who love God. Think of your heart as your mind as a snowball. If you don't stop it in time, it's just going to keep rolling. So if you're getting these emotions for somebody that you don't really know yet, and you don't put a stop to it, it's going to keep rolling, and then attachment is going to come in, and then it's going to keep rolling, and then you're going to fall in love. And it's like you enter this area where you never had control. Your mind was just wandering around. And it's the same thing with sinful thoughts. Like our minds are not set to just wander and just with no control. Like I'm thinking about this woman and in this certain way, and I'm just not going to stop it because those are my thoughts. No, you have to. You have to. You can't entertain your flesh physically or internally. They're supposed to have a limit to what you're thinking, what you're speaking. We're supposed to speak blessings into other people's life. We're not supposed to use our tongue for any type of conversations. So it's the same thing with our minds. We're not supposed to use our minds to have any type of thoughts. You are what you think. And you allow yourself to feel what you allow yourself to think that you're feeling constantly. It's like you have to get out of your head and get in the moment. Like you have to live in the moment.
So what advice would you give to someone that was in that situation? So they are having thoughts about someone and, and they can't control their thoughts or they're in their head. What would you tell them to do?
Well,
First things first, get in the Word of God and pray. Anything that you need to know, most likely the answers in the Bible. A lot of people don't know this. God says, Jesus said, while he was being tempted, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God. So think about it. We ought to live by every word that comes out of the mouth of God. That's our bread right there. That's our food. You eat every day because you don't want to die. You die if you don't eat. So God is saying, by the word of God we live. So if you're not in the word, then what are we doing? Who's guiding you? Yourself. You're guiding yourself? Are you getting into trouble because you're leaning onto your own understanding? So my first advice would be that. Second, and I say this because I've had friends that are in that type of situation. Understand that you are not forced to do anything. And you are not forced to be with anybody. Regardless of how they feel about you, if you don't feel it's right, it's not right. You can't control your feelings and then somebody else's. You can't have control over every single thing in your life, but you should at least have control over your thoughts and your decision making. So realize it's not, you're not forced to be with anybody. If you have doubts, that's okay. Remain doubtful until you're not doubtful anymore. And then you feel like, okay, I'm going to get my foot in the door. It feels right. I prayed about it. God gave me peace. Just don't force yourself to do anything that naturally doesn't come out of you to do. That would be my advice.
Good.
And also, we need to have, if we have, a really strong foundation in Christ, certain things will happen. So it's like a house, right? If the house doesn't have, a really strong foundation, it will eventually collapse.
Yeah.
So if we have this really intimate relationship with God, have a strong relationship with Him, then we know in certain situations, our first thing to do is go to Him and ask Him. But if we don't, then we'll just let our flesh take over and do whatever we think is okay.
Yes.
So
That reminds me of that story I put up on my Instagram about religion is kind of like when you get in trouble, oh, my dad's going to kill me.
Oh, yeah.
But then having a relationship with God is like, crap, I'm in trouble, let me call my dad.
Yeah.
And it's just so great that he is always going to be there for us. Like, he's our person. And it's just...
We just from Grey's Anatomy.
I know that is from Grey's Anatomy. So yeah, God is all of our person, and it's great. But so do you believe in soul ties? Do you think that they're a thing? I didn't know that wasn't in the Bible though. I didn't know that there wasn't a biblical view on that.
Yeah.
I believe in attachment. I believe that once you share certain moments with a person, intimate moments, then you come to have these feelings and then you start to care about the person. To me, the way that I am in a relationship, if I'm getting to know you and we're spending a lot of time together, and then if we actually commit to each other, then single mark just, turns into in a relationship mark. There's two different types of mark. You got committed to you, me, and then just trying to get to know you. I'm still, in my singleness and trying to figure myself out too, but when I'm in a committed relationship, it's like I care about you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have certain things in your life, like you have a condition, like a medical condition, I need to watch out for that. Are you a diabetic? Is your sugar gone low? Like, do we need to have a snack? Like, what can I do that complements and helps you? That's my thoughts go from being single to how can I help you?
Yeah.
Because you are my help too. That's why you're there. Like, we're supposed to complement each other. And I believe that once you get to that point where you're caring about that person, and you have these emotions, then that attachment comes. But I feel that even though you care about a person, you should be aware of what's good, what's not good. Don't get so involved in emotions that when you see something that's supposed to be common sense, you're supposed to be logical. When you're supposed to be logical, red flags. If you're supposed to be logical, be logical. There's a time for everything. Ecclesiastes say, in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says that there's a season for everything. There's a time to cry, a time to laugh, a time to celebrate, a time to weep. Like, there's a time for everything. So when there's a time to be logical, you need to be logical and make decisions and say no, and say I don't want that. And then emotions, romantic, and it's just do it, give it all, but a time for everything.
Do you believe in soul ties?
I do. So when I actually think of soul ties, I think more of like sexual relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I actually think this is why God is like wait till marriage, because that's when you become one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So like I feel like when before marriage, when we actually get like sexually involved with someone, it's not just like a sexual relationship. It's way more than that.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'm Haitian. I hear a lot of stuff, and and I feel like a lot of things like that, like soul ties, happen. It's because like people just decide to mess with others that deal with a lot, like demons and stuff. And it's real. Like I've seen. I remember my mom was talking. I was here drumming. She was talking to her friend, and so the lady got married to a guy, and she couldn't do it. She was getting abused emotionally, so she got a divorce, got remarried to someone else, and the stuff she was dealing with in the last relationship, she was dealing with in the same relationship, and it was just like she got tied to this man, and there's like she didn't take time to actually pray and try to break this tie, and decided to jump in another relationship. So the same thing that was happening in the previous one was happening in the current one. And it was just like, wow, it is sad. It is sad. And just like, just wait till marriage, people. It's crazy out there.
It's crazy out there.
It is crazy.
Physical intimacy can make you make all the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons.
You get clouded. Your vision, it gets cloudy. And I know that's why I am so adamant and I'm so focused on being single right now, because I knew off the bat I did not want to take all of this stuff, all of this baggage, all of this unfinished feelings and emotions into my next relationship for the man that God actually has for me. Like you shouldn't want to carry that stuff. Like, oh my God, that baggage feels heavy and it's not even mine. Like, so I just am so adamant about being single and just learning about me and just getting to know God more. Yeah. It's so important to take that time for yourself, especially like coming out of a marriage. That's a lot, and it's by itself, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not healthy, especially people like joking around. Like, how many people like, it's crazy. I was literally thinking about it. So you have a sexual relationship with this one person. You go and have another with this other person. So you all connected into this spiritual level. And it's just like, you are dealing with multiple demons. Not just this one, but like hundreds of hundreds. And it's just like...
We can even take this back to episode 1 of knowing your worth.
Yeah.
Like, are you honoring yourself? And I'm talking to me too, because I, like, Saskia and I have talked about this when I first got out of that relationship, I was like, I gotta be celibate. Like, listen. Yeah, I was like, whoa, I'm not accustomed to this life. Like, I wasn't a child of God before. I could just do what I wanted. Like, I didn't have these responsibilities in this, like, I wasn't, if that, I wasn't me. I was this. Like, God knew me, but I didn't know him, basically. And then, so it's like, so now I'm this young woman. I'm building a reputation in my community as a community leader. Like, I have a responsibility to my church, to God, to, so I can't just be out there thotting and bopping the way that I used to be thotting and bopping. But it was a really hard transition for me of like who I used to be to kind of feeling like I have this newfound freedom. Like, okay, I'm not married no more. I can just do what I want, but that's not who I am anymore. So I battled myself for a lot, and I made some decisions and did things that I learned from that I shouldn't have done, but I did. And I talked to my sister, one of my sisters in Christ. She hooked me up with the old friend of hers that had gone through a divorce, and I was just kind of telling her about how I was struggling with like my celibacy, because it's like I've never been here before. Like, this is unfamiliar territory. Like, what do you do? But and that's when she kind of really talked to me about soul ties, about how, like, although he and I weren't together anymore, I was still carrying his baggage. So the need to like be with somebody else was just really just pure emotions. Like, your emotions are really something. Like, and I know I'm emotional. Like, they could really get you in trouble. And she had me say this prayer to renounce any soul tie. Well, she had me make a list of every guy that I've ever been intimate with, and then renounce any soul ties that I've had with each person, to just kind of lift it off my spirit in a way. And it did help. But once I got really serious about actually being celibate, that helped too. But I just really wish that, like, when I was growing up, I would have known more about like God and sex and marriage and saving yourself for marriage and stuff like that. But I didn't.
Question.
What's up?
Did you get the talk? Like, did you
No. Like, and I want to have a podcast episode on that. I never. Did you get the talk growing up?
I mean, I probably did.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
I know for sure I did not.
I like everything I learned about
yeah.
sex, I learned on like TV or like watching porn or like or like doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. But like I never, and I can't wait to have children to change this, but I never had like a talk about like my body and like sex and just stuff like that. And we should really normalize that.
My dad used to turn off the TV when the sex scenes come on.
Right. Like my grandma would be like, turn your head.
I didn't get any of that.
You know?
It was the whole contrary for me. Like, oh, look at that, it's cool, or it's
Yeah,
like,
you get that part too.
Yeah, I didn't
Or
get
like,
to talk at all.
or like how women are taught to value their body, but men aren't, as if they're not precious, as if they're not jewels. Like,
yes.
you guys, men need to honor their bodies too.
It says it in the Bible, and it's for both men and women. Honor your body. Don't sin against it.
Right, just sticking your thing in anything moving. That's not cool, bro.
No, listen. Sex has become such an easy access type of thing. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be like that person was a baby, grew up, and had her whole life, and you just met for like a couple of months, and you're already becoming one. Like, how do you do that? You know what I'm saying? And how do you do that? Okay, it's easy. You fall into temptation because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you didn't make the decision to buy. It's time to go. It's late. So it's super.
That Usher started playing.
It's I'm saying.
That Pretty Ricky.
It's so.
Temptation.
Sorry, Mark. Okay, go ahead.
You have one cup in life, right?
Yeah.
And you decide what to fill it up with. So,
You better preach.
listen, it's either Jesus filling your cup, or your own way, your own thoughts, your own decision making. It's either His word, His guidance, or what you just think is right and feels right at the moment. Because we, as humans, have this tendency to sometimes live in the moment when you should be living on long term, you know. And then long term, you live in the moment. It's like we have it all mixed up. Somebody needs to just remind us of this is the way. All you have to do is read, turn the pages, and focus, you know. But we don't do that, so.
Jesus is gonna pop back up on this earth, and we're gonna be like, we're gonna be shook.
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 It's like, you know.
Lord, come and save me. Who? Who are you talking to? Who are you talking? Like, you don't have a relationship. You're not intimate with Him. Who are you expecting to say? Like, know the person that's actually protecting your life and taking care of you. You know, God said to the people of Israel, I take care of these people, and they don't even know I'm the one taking care of them. They're just going about their ways, praising their idols and worshiping other gods. And I'm over here just waiting for them to realize that I am home. I am where you're supposed to be at, and He does that. He brings them back. Is that how God? That's how God works. He brings you back.
He's a forgiving God.
Yes.
Well, I hope that this episode gave you some good insight about guarding your heart and soul ties, and just really got you thinking about just where you are right now in life, and just, I don't know, if you're in your season of singleness, be happy and content in your single season.
Yes.
And if you're not, then that's cool too. But thank you for listening to us on another episode of A Moment with A. Always be sure to connect with me on Instagram. What's my name on Instagram? Oh, it's at AMomentWithA. Sorry, I have a lot of social media accounts. Sometimes it gets confusing.
Right.
But yes, that's all for tonight. So I hope that you guys will join us again next week we'll be wrapping up our series.
Oh my God.
I know it'll be our last episode for this series, but it's okay because I have some other dope stuff planned. Yeah. But yeah, so join us next week for another episode of A Moment with A. Bye.
Bye.